Hi, welcome back to Waxing On Monday, and we're going to continue on with our themed shows. Last week we did Billy Joel, the week before it was the Beatles. This week it's going to be the music of Tom Waits. Now, Tom Waits has a vast catalog. I first became aware of him in the early 70s. The beginning of his catalog as such with Asylum started in 73, went to 1980. After 1980, so 1981 to present, he had a whole different style of music. So there was a real division there between the Asylum years and the more current music. The style has changed, the writing has changed, the players and the kind of backup he uses have changed. The music has become very different from what it was. We're going to look this episode on the Asylum years. And Asylum years was mainly more of a jazz band. We had Tom on piano or guitar, bass player, drummer, and then there'll be the odd trumpet and sax thrown in. So it was like a little jazz trio or quintet. And those songs had a very different feel to them. The music of those days, he was more like the street beat poet. He was fashioning his ideas from people like William S. Burroughs or Allen Ginsberg and Charles Bukowski. And the stories he tells are about people that are, living on that dark side of life, the after hours people, the people out on the street. It's a very unusual kind of topic he covers all the time. The music's excellent. Some of the songs, like I say, to read them as poems, they're just fantastic as well. Tom had once said he loves beautiful melodies telling him terrible stories, and that's what we find in a lot of these songs on these albums. We've got quite a few to cover. We're not going to do all of them. We'll kind of highlight some. I'm going to start at the end of the Asylum era with his last album in 1980, one called Heart Attack and Vine. Now, produced by Bones Howe, who produced a lot of, if not all of his Asylum music. And some new players on here. We've got Tom on guitar and piano. We've got Larry Taylor on bass, who been on a few of these albums, and we talked about him back with John Mayall Moving On album from filmed there, or recorded in Los Angeles. Larry Taylor was a prominent player on that for John. And the other new addition here is Big John Thomasy on drums. Now, I hadn't seen his name prior to this album as well. Now, Heart Attack and Vine, single album, not much inside. I did get a sleeve that came with it that I really didn't use much, that, if you can see from there, has the words, not a lot of information on it other than that. So I've got words for all the tunes. Now, the music, again, has a very edge to it, very fine edge. Now, one of the songs written for a movie that Ralph Waite, who you may remember, I believe, from the Waltons, put together called On the Nickel, and Tom did the theme song for that one. Now, at this point, he was doing music as well. I mean, he had done music for the Francis Ford Coppola film we talked about quite a while ago. Tom had also been starring in some movies, so he's done a lot of different work. I actually came across a movie the other day I was watching called Two Jakes, the sequel to Chinatown that Jack Nicholson directed, and Tom Waits had a part in that as a detective. Seven Psychopaths, another great Tom Waits performance. So he's been a performance artist as well as a musician, writer, and performer. So there's lots of great stuff here. Let's take a look at the songs on this album. We've got Heart Attack and Vine, In Shades, Saving All My Love for You, Downtown, and Jersey Girl. Now, a couple of those you might recognize because some of Tom's tunes have been covered by other artists. Specifically, I'm thinking of Bruce Springsteen with Jersey Girl. We got Downtown. Rod Stewart covered some of his material. Paul Young covered some of his material. Norah Jones covered some of his material. I mean, some very popular artists are recording some of the Tom Waits tunes, so you may have heard them by other artists as well, but just didn't know who it was. On side two, we got Till the Money Runs Out, and the great tune there, On the Nickel, that I talked about from the movie. Mr. Siegel and Ruby's Arms. Now, just to give you an idea here, I'm going to try and find a quote for you. So, think it was on the front I wanted here. It said, Doctor, lawyer, beggar man, thief, Philly Joe Remarkable looks on in disbelief. If you want a taste of madness, you'll have to wait in line. You'll probably see someone you know on Heart Attack and Vine. And this is the kind of lyrics we're looking at. There's another quote in there about how do the angels get to sleep when the devil leaves the porch light on? I mean, these kind of phrases that he puts out there, they just really catch your attention. It was a great album. It's like closing the chapter on the Asylum years. And the Asylum years were all about what I'm going to call street music. I'm not talking rap. I'm not talking hip hop. I'm talking about people out on the street, the beats, the after hours crowd, you know, those kind of people. And this really kind of bookends everything. The first album, Closing Time, came out, and we're not going to actually look at it specifically, but there are some album songs from it. That was probably his big break, because one of the tunes on there, Old 55, was actually covered by the Eagles and got a lot of airplay there. So he's been around for quite a while. He's opened for a lot of different acts. I know I've had one person that actually saw him open for Frank Zappa, which isn't surprising because one of the albums we're going to talk about at the end of the week, Herb Cohen had signed him on Bizarre, which was associated with Frank Zappa, Cohen, and Bizarre as well. So the fact that he was opening for him was not a big stretch. If you haven't had a chance to check out his material, go online. Streaming networks, they have a lot of it. You can get hard copies. Albums we've talked about before, go back and check out a couple of my other episodes. One from The Heart, the soundtrack that he did with Crystal Gayle, the one for Francis Ford Coppola's movie. We talked about one of my favorites, Blue Valentine, and we talked about that at Valentine's time a lot, and it's shown up a few times. But this isn't our first Tom Waits episode, but we're going to look at a specific year and give you a chance to kind of experience what he was doing in those early days, especially if you're more familiar with his more recent work. So today we're kicking it off with Heart Attack and Vine. Tomorrow we're going to look at the rest of the Asylum catalog. And Friday we're going to look at a very special, kind of hard to find sometimes, very early release of Tom Waits, his first signing. So I hope you join us for that. Everybody have a great afternoon. We'll see you on Wednesday. Till then, take care, stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.